A masterpiece is not just a great piece of art. It's an extension of the artist themselves, a culmination of every moment of their life up until that point. After all, it is a masterpiece, a piece of work created by a master of their craft. And to become a master, it takes tens of thousands of hours, years, and oftentimes decades of both successes and failures alike. 1 year ago this week, Blu and Exile reunited to release a masterpiece of their own, called Miles, from an interlude called Life. This is their third full-length album together, and marks a return to form for both of them, as each of their greatest albums since 2007's Below the Heavens. Blu and Exile met in the early 2000s, and immediately started getting to work on Below the Heavens, which eventually became one of the most renowned underground classics of all time. The blend of Exile's sample-heavy production with Blu's introspective lyrics make for one of the greatest rap albums of that decade. The duo took a few years off before returning in 2011, with Give Me My Flowers While I Still Can Smell Them. Over the next decade, Blu and Exile worked on dozens of projects separate from each other, while linking back up for one-offs and collabs on other people's projects. But it was looking like the duo might never fully return together. Thankfully, this proved to be untrue when we were blessed with this masterpiece in July of 2020. The recording process of Miles started way back in 2017, with the duo recording over 70 songs in the process. They spent a lot of time trying to figure out what sound they wanted to go with, even creating and scrapping an entire trap album in the process. The final product that they ended up with was definitely worth the wait, giving us 20 songs and an hour and 35 minutes of incredible hip-hop. From start to finish, this album dives into Blu's roots, sonically, culturally, and personally. The album cover shows Blu and Exile standing on a tree with its roots exposed, showing how deep everyone's roots actually go. The title of this album also tells so much. Miles, meaning all of the miles that Blu and Exile have traveled since the start of their careers and how much they've grown, while also referencing Miles Davis, who was a huge influence to both Blu and Exile. Davis and his jazz contemporaries are a huge inspiration to the foundation of hip-hop, and act as the roots to rap music in a variety of ways. The official title to this album is Miles, from an interlude called Life, which infers that this album is an interlude and the roots to life itself. In 2010, Blu released an album called God Is Good, a soundtrack to life, showing that Miles may be an interlude to this album, or even Blu's entire discography. This album starts off with a child naming their favorite colors. Exile samples children throughout this project, emphasizing the dive the duo is taking into their roots and childhood. Colors are one of the first things that we learn when we're children, so Blu spends the intro describing himself and his favorite color in a variety of ways. In just the first line of this album, Blu references two of his hip-hop inspirations as well as Miles Davis.
I said ULB like L-Bug, but more hood like Ice-T, and that's cool like Miles Davis walked in the room and redefined the groove, defined jazz, the mood turned. Like the note I wrote, to the boat I float with no ledge, so know the ledge.
This line references Miles Davis' 1957 album The Birth of Cool and his 1959 album Kind of Blue. Miles Davis is known for mastering a variety of styles of jazz, giving us albums in virtually every subgenre of the craft. This is something that Blu has also been known for in his career as well, giving us a wide variety of sounds and styles to enjoy these past 2 decades. Blu details meeting Exile on When Gods Meet, stating that it's up to them to bring light to the darkness in this world, and they do that through the music. True and Livin' and Miles Davis are examples of Exile's incredible production throughout this whole album. He effortlessly blends jazzy instrumentals with vocal samples and even record scratching, providing the perfect backdrop for Blu to display his lyrical gymnastics. The Feeling is an example of this album's masterful curation. This unapologetically 7.5-minute song is powerful and personal, and features nearly 4 minutes of incredible poetry from Jacinto Rhymes. There's actually an incredible story about how Blu and Jacinto originally linked up. Take a listen.
Man, I met Jacinto. He has a soul food shop, and I ordered soul food one day. And he brought the soul food down. It took him like an hour to get it to me, but he got it to me. He brought it down, and he said, "Brother, let me give you a ride back to your location." And I said, "Okay, it's cool." And I hopped in his back seat, and I seen this book sitting on his back seat. And I said, "Yo, I have this book at my house." And Jacinto says, "I wrote this book." And I said, "No way, this book was given to me as a gift." And he said, yeah, I'm the writer of this book. And he began to kick poetry from this book to me. And the first piece he ever kicked to me was called The Feeling.
Rapping as an art form primarily draws from two other stylings, jazz and poetry. Blue uses this album as a way to go back to hip-hop's roots and explore his passion from these points of view. He goes back to explore the roots of his own love of music on Music Is My Everything, reminiscing about hearing the Fat Boys beatboxing in the 80s, to being too young to understand the greatness of Tupac. This track features Choosy and Jametta Rose, two longtime collaborators of the duo who always enhance any song they're featured on. Blue helps us to see how he sees on Blue As I Can Be. This song contains vocal samples of some of the greatest rappers of all time, like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Eminem, Nas, Guru, MF Doom, and more, showing that all of these artists helped Blue become Blue by influencing him over the years. The beat on this song changes for the third verse. It sounds like Blue is reading spoken word poetry from a smoky jazz club, equipped with the background noise and applause of a club after a performance.
Same shoes I work in, I church in. Service, the shirt fits, the roof over my head, the bed under my ass. I hear rumbling, put my ear to the wall. Nothing but jazz, granddad must have had that on blast.
Throughout this video, I've focused mostly on Blue's rapping performance, but Exile gives us one of the greatest produced albums of all time here. The beats somehow simultaneously feel classic and modern, like something I've never heard before. There isn't 1 second of sound wasted on this album. X weaves in more samples than early De La Soul, and it all works so perfectly.
What's your favorite color?
It's up to you.
What's your second favorite color?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
Darker pink.
What's your third
It's up
favorite
to
color?
you. It's
Green.
up to you.
What's your fourth favorite color?
It's up to you to explain.
Blue.
You Ain't Never Been Blue is one of my favorite songs on the album. It starts off with another sample of children talking about their favorite colors, then evolves into Blue giving a motivational rap about how someone can always be going through it worse than you are. And Exile's beat is so quirky and fun. The beat is so good that even Exile himself decides to hop on the mic.
You ain't never been blue like my eyes beat with gold in the middle. Kinda like my outer and my inner, that's the riddle. Big blue soul, you ain't even have a little. Put your hand out, I'll give you my favorite color of Skittle.
I see a lot of people rag on him for his verse here, but to me, I love it because it sounds like he's having so much fun rapping. After all, anyone would sound whack compared to Blue, who's spitting career-defining verses up and down this album's runtime. Roots of Blue acts as the thesis statement for this whole album. It starts off with a minute of just African percussion and singing, going deeper into Blue's roots than we ever had until this point. Blue's verse outlines all of the people that he feels are his ancestors, from ancient cavemen, to the kings of Africa, to the leaders of the civil rights movement, to groundbreaking musicians. This song is a staggering 9 minutes long, and leaves me speechless every time. Jacinto Rhymes has poetic interludes between each verse, and Blue's lyrics are equally as informative and inspiring. After listing dozens of icons, he ends his third verse saying the following.
And even Gil Scott, Heron, Al Sharpton, Fred Hampton, Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama, Assata Shakur, Tupac Shakur, Biggie, and everyone else creating black history that lives with me every day until I'm gone.
This is possibly the most important line of the album, because it signifies the importance of this piece of art to both the culture and to Blue himself. He reaches within himself to his roots, giving us a masterpiece that only he could create. There's a quartet of songs toward the end of the album which all deal with dreams. African Dream acts as a love letter to his heritage and race. He daydreams about living in Africa to get closer to his roots, since he was born and raised in California. Requiem of Blue is more of a literal expression of Blue's roots. He goes into detail reminiscing about his life and his dreams that helped him get to where he is now. The American Dream is possibly the best song on this whole album. It's an uplifting and hopeful song, with Blue rapping about his dreams and hopes for both himself and the world. On this song, Blue channels the roots of his career, linking back up with his childhood friend Miguel. Blue and Miguel went to high school together and were frequent collaborators before Miguel became an international pop star in the 2010s. Miguel, along with The Last Artful Dodger, combined to give us one of the most infectious hooks that the underground has ever seen.
I can't sleep, my mind's catching up to me. Dreams keeping me awake.
Everything's in order. I can't sleep, my dreams catching up to me. Lucid, leave me away.
Dear Lord continues the theme of dreams, with Blue describing a dream he had about the world. The song feels like we're listening to Blue praying or talking directly to God, wishing for a better world. The Fall But Not Forgotten is an incredible song. It acts as a eulogy for so many people who have passed away. Blue and Exile treat the song with such reverence and love, it almost feels bigger than the album itself. All the Blues acts as another closing thesis for the album. The first verse is all about Miles Davis, almost a biography of him through Blue's words. The second verse uses the same formula as the first, but this time describing the lives of his father and grandfather. He ends the verse saying this:
I swore one day that I would have my own boy who was born in Los Angeles and not in Illinois. Born full of joy, just like my family. Ready to be exactly what we all plan to be. A love so strong that no one can take away, so we can live as long as anybody to this day. And I would name a Miles named after Miles Davis.
These lyrics tell so much about this album to me. Blue ends a verse about his blood relatives who came before him by saying that he would name his son after Miles Davis. This exemplifies how music is just as much part of Blue's roots as his family and heritage are. On this album, Blue and Exile channel one of the greatest musicians of all time to give us a masterpiece of their own. Throughout this album, the way Blue phrases his words and takes his breaths, it feels like listening to Milestones or Kind of Blue. And the way that Exile experiments with intercutting samples feels like an extension of Bitches Brew. After listening to this album, you really feel like you know Blue, because you know everywhere that he came from. Not only does he tell us so much about himself, but it feels like Blue learned a lot about himself too. This album is such a journey to listen to and contains such a variety of ideas and feelings. Even with its length, this is an album that I can listen to over and over again, taking something new from the experience every time. Blue and Exile have both stated that we won't have to wait a near decade before their next collaboration, which is great to hear. But if 10 years is what it takes to craft a masterpiece, then it's worth the wait. Miles is more than an album to me. It's an invitation to live. When I listen to this, it makes me want to look at my roots to deeper understand myself. This album is a piece of art, and it should be treated as such, as one of the greatest masterpieces of our time. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I had a lot of fun making this video, so I hope you liked it too. If you did like it, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back with another video up for you guys soon. Thanks for watching.